Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to today's briefing. I'll start today's briefing with an update on the Prime Minister's recent official visit to the Republic of Turkey. This was held on Wednesday, August 18th, 2021 in a warm reception that was afforded to the Prime Minister and his delegation by the Turkish government. The official state visit to Turkey occurred as both countries mark 125 years of diplomatic relations, making it a historically significant trip. The two leaders discussed bilateral and regional issues of mutual concern. And during the bilateral meetings, both leaders expressed the will to further strengthen cooperation between Ethiopia and Turkey. President Erdogan, on his part, affirmed support to Ethiopia in the areas of health, culture, agriculture, education, industry development, science and technology, youth and sports, and strengthening trade relations. There was also an expressed commitment to triple the volume of trade between the two countries. The official state visit to the Republic of Turkey culminated with the signing of 4 key agreements between the government of Ethiopia and the government of Turkey. Firstly, a memorandum of understanding between both countries on cooperation in the field of water was signed. Second, a military framework agreement was also signed. Third, military financial cooperation agreement. And lastly, an implementation protocol regarding the financial assistance was also signed. The area of cooperation as it pertains to the first agreement, which is the cooperation agreement in the field of water, includes planning and implementation of integrated water resources management, hydropower plant and plan and development, irrigation and drainage plan and development, water supply and sanitation plan and development, development and conservation of river basins, and experience sharing on global engagements and strategies in integrated water resources management. The implementation of this MOU will be followed up through establishment of a joint committee in the field of water, and it will be followed up respectively by the key ministries that are responsible and in charge for this. The cooperation in the military framework agreement includes capacity building, military cooperation, military medical health and services, and other provisions as well. It can be said that the official state visit to Turkey can be described as fruitful in further strengthening the cooperation between the two countries, which is found on trust, respect, and solidarity, and a strong relationship that has been augmented over the past 125 years. Moving on to humanitarian activities update in the northern part of the country. As of yesterday, August 19th, 2021, the number of humanitarian trucks that have arrived in Mekelle has reached 318 trucks. The more than 300,000 displaced people in the Amhara and Afar regions due to TPLF's aggressions have been receiving humanitarian assistance as well through the support of the government of Ethiopia and World Food Programme. In addition, a regional emergency coordination center has been established to facilitate the movement of trucks along the Afar to Tigray route, and also to coordinate emergency assistance to displaced people as a result of TPLF's aggressions. This regional emergency coordination center has been set up in Samara and comprises federal institutions with their regional counterparts and partners like the WFP and UN OCHA as well. With regards to activities or encroachments and continued encroachments and belligerence by the TPLF group, the terrorist group has continued terrorizing civilian communities in the Amhara region. This is marked and characterized by continued looting of properties, destroying hospitals, health centers, and other infrastructure on its destructive path as it's entering some communities. The terrorist TPLF is also attacking farming communities, threatening them with death if they're not able to indicate to them access routes, which they perceive the ANDF is taking, assassinating those that forcibly show them routes after they reach their destination, abducting male and female youth from these regions. And the terrorist group has decimated the small rural farming community of Agamsa in Kobo. And in Debra Tabor, yesterday, in the terrorist group's failed attempt to enter the town, they undertook indiscriminate shelling on hospitals and civilian homes, killing an entire family in this indiscriminate targeting and shelling with heavy weaponry. What we have witnessed in the past few weeks, as has been explicitly stated time and again, through TPLF's explicit actions, alliances, and the rhetoric is that the terrorist group's aims are destruction and escalating instability, further instability. The ultimate goal and its ambitions clearly surpass the goal of humanitarian assistance. It is now sacrificing an entire generation of youth, of Tigrayan youth, in its destructive and futile terror ambitions, and holding our people in the Tigray region hostage for its destructive aims and ambitions. Its international propaganda arm continues to fabricate and disseminate distorted facts and undertakes targeted defamation of government officials. And according to the Federal Intelligence and Security Task Force, agents of the terrorist group in Addis Ababa and other cities have been caught attempting to undertake widespread economic scams through coordinating illicit financial flows, illegal fundraising, and logistical arrangement in support of these terrorist groups. The terrorist TPLF is not only a threat anymore to Ethiopia, but also to the stability of the larger Horn region. Resultantly, all international partners need to be wary and vigilant of the vicious alliances it is making, including with other global terror cells in the Horn region. We call upon the international community to denounce the continued terrorism of the TPLF, which it embarked upon covertly in the past 3 years and overtly as of November 2020 by attacking the Northern Command of the National Defense Forces. Moving on to the local responses that we have been witnessing over the past weeks and display even today in the southern part of the country, the local response and condemnation of the belligerence of TPLF continues to be quite strong across the country. Many throughout Ethiopia are going out in public rallies and voicing their denunciation of the terrorist group itself, denunciation of its alliances, and its refusal to cease fire. Millions of Ethiopians are also heeding the national call and extending their support in various ways to communities in need, as well as to the National Defense Forces. And the federal government continues to encourage all Ethiopians throughout the country and across the world to continue mobilizing support for the country, harnessing unity, exposing the nature of the terrorist group and its operatives. A specific call to action for Ethiopians in the diaspora is to curb the illicit financial flows that TPLF operatives are intensifying. We urge you to use formal financial channels for remittances and not fall into the trap of aiding and abetting terror organizations through informal black market channels. Your country needs you at this particular moment and in this critical juncture to stand for the guard of Ethiopia. So with that concluding message, I would open it up to any questions that you have for today based on what has been shared. Okay, we'll take room from this side, over here, and Brooke, and then we'll come to the side after we entertain.
Thank you so much, Grumjala CGTN. Recently, it's been a while that we are hearing from different international partners of Ethiopia and allies as well, of an effort for a peaceful resolution of the conflict in the north. We have also heard President Tayyip Erdogan has also called for the same perhaps intervention if there is a way of doing that. Recently, however, we have heard from the UN Secretary General himself saying that there should be an Ethiopian-led process for a peaceful resolution of the conflict in the north. What do you really understand him saying Ethiopian-led, and is there a response from the government side when it comes to any peace process that can come anytime soon? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Groom. I will answer this and proceed to the next question. I think it's been very evident prior to the attack by TPLF of the Northern Command that the Ethiopian government has been committed to an amicable resolution of any grievances that were being put forth by the then regional government of Tigray. There has been a lot of processes to make sure that what we are encountering right now does not materialize, and there has been a lot of patience on the part of the federal government. Continuing into the belligerence by the TPLF and attacking the Northern Command, which was an attack against the state. Following that, the government was responsible for peace and security of the country and ensuring the cohesion of the state, and therefore had to respond to that aggression on the Northern Command. But as early as the past 2 months, or about a month and a half, the ceasefire was also showing the will of the government to move on towards this peaceful track. But this is, again, an olive branch that the PLF have refused to accept. The encroachment into the Afar region, the encroachment into the Amhara region is a demonstration of the fact that the TPLF group, which is now designated as a terrorist organization, does not want to embark on a peaceful process and is hell-bent on destroying or attempts to destroy the country. So the call that you make with regards to an Ethiopian-led dialogue, I mean, I think we need to reference it in terms of existing processes that had been already in the pipeline as part of the reforms process that the government embarked upon 3 years ago. But that the TPLF, at that point in time when they were within governing stature of the Tigray region, had rejected. And so the groundwork for the National Inclusive Dialogue has been an ongoing effort. We expect that sometime, by the end of this month as well, the roadmap would be put in place. And around September, there are preparations at the structure for the national dialogue and decision-making processes to take place. So mind you that there are people from the region, from Tigray, women, children, that had also been engaged in this dialogue process as well when the interim administration was coordinating these discussions, and these discussions will still continue with people from the region who want a peaceful outcome to it. So I see it as an acknowledgement of the process that had been embarked upon as part of the reforms and the dialogue processes that the government has been undertaking.
Thank you. I'm Melis Kacho from VOA. There are some reports that Prime Minister Abiy had been to Asmara on his way to Ankara. Can we have some details of what transpired there? Thank you.
Thank you, Melis Kacho. I don't have concrete details around that, so whenever that's available, it will be made public. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you very much. My name is Brooke. My first question also concerns the negotiation with the TPLF, and there has been repeated calls for negotiations between the Ethiopian government and the TPLF. So is negotiation still on the table, and which parties can be the potential negotiators for the two bodies? And the second question is, the war in the northern part of Ethiopia has also expanded to Afar and Amhara regions, and it's also become evident that it involves territorial claims, especially regarding the areas. It involves
what? Sorry, I didn't hear that part.
It also involves territorial claims, especially between the Amhara and the Tigray border lines. So do you think there will be some kind of political resolution for these claims, or do you think it's going to be resolved through military means? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Heeding the calls for negotiation, the ultimate resolution for this, or initial step towards this, is a ceasefire. The government has extended that offer by declaring a unilateral ceasefire, which has been breached on several occasions. So I have just intimated to you earlier on the kind of destruction path that the TPLF has been on for the past weeks, which has been quite visible to a lot of people as well, and reports that you have also been privy to. And just over the past 2 days, we have seen these indiscriminate attacks on communities as well. So the federal government is in a position and is expected by the community that it's safeguarding to further ensure the peace and security of these communities by thwarting these initial threats. So at this point, the focus for the National Defense Forces is in thwarting of these threats that the TPLF is posing, as it's trying and failing to further encroach into the Amhara region and other regions as well, more notably Afar. Okay, we'll go to this side. Coletta.
Thanks, Belene. Coletta Anjoy from FSN. If you could kindly respond to the Human Rights Watch report that was released recently, saying that the Ethiopian government is targeting people of Tigray ethnicity, probably to close down their businesses and all that. Thanks.
Okay, Coletta. On the Human Rights Watch report, I mean, it's important to note that there isn't a targeting of particular groups of people based on their identity. I had already mentioned, and we keep repeating, that TPLF has been designated a terrorist organization per the laws of the land. Hence, counterterrorism measures and operations are being undertaken by the security sector. And these measures are being taken against informants, agents, and financiers of the TPLF. I mentioned earlier that the Security Task Force has also been indicated, and they've actually publicized it yesterday, that certain groups have also been apprehended with, facilitating these illicit financial flows and illegal fundraising on behalf of the group. So these operatives constitute not only Tigrayans or people from the region, but also other ethnicities. And they are being apprehended by the federal police, again, as part of ongoing investigations as well. With a belligerent criminal enterprise that has waged war on the state, the responsibility of the federal government to thwart grave threats is a responsibility and is part of these counterterrorism operations. However, there are federal redress mechanisms in place, including an independent judiciary, where they perceive that there are excesses in terms of these counterterrorism measures. There are processes and there are redress mechanisms that have been established and that the relevant authorities will be able to pursue if these claims do also go through. Thank you.
In Tigray, in the adjoining conflict-affected areas. But this morning, the USAID had released a statement saying Ethiopian government is obstructing humanitarian aid personnel, including land convoys and air access to Tigray. Could you respond to this statement? And secondly, the US envoy Jeffrey Feltman was in Addis this week. Did he meet the Prime Minister or other government officials? And what did the discussion revolve around if he met with Prime Minister Abiy?
Okay, thank you, Elias. In reference to these continuous allegations that the government of Ethiopia is purposely blocking humanitarian assistance, I think it's important because these allegations keep coming up, and we have been demonstrating through the routing of or the facilitation of humanitarian convoys that have been entering the region, and also international partners confirming this, UN agencies that are also on the ground in terms of facilitating humanitarian assistance into the region. It's important to really address this continuing rhetoric, because that is not the case. Security is first and foremost a priority that cannot be compromised. It is a volatile area. So in that regards, there is going to be continuous checks and processes that have been put in place by the federal government, and any entity that wants to enter the region needs to be in compliance with regulations that have been set by these federal bodies and authorities. I have mentioned earlier that the Regional Emergency Coordination Center in Samara, Afar region, which UN OCHA is also a part of, is tasked with facilitating movement of trucks. So if there are any hiccups in that process, this is something that together with partners is being discussed to further facilitate and ease the entrance. In your query with regards to Special Envoy Jeffrey Feltman being within the country, I believe he's still around and has been in discussion with various officials. Ministry of Foreign Affairs has given detailed information on that, so I don't think I will repeat the information and the engagements that have been shared in that session. Any other questions? Take one more question over here before we wrap up.
Thank you. My name is Abdrazak Mohammed. I have one question. The United Nations in Ethiopia recently disclosed that the UN agencies and humanitarian partners operating in Ethiopia are impartial. It also said that organizations are guided by the 4 principles, humanitarian principles: humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence. In light of their activity so far, can we say these organizations are really neutral in case of Ethiopia?
Okay, so with regards to a statement that has been issued by UN entities, I am not privy to respond to their claims of that. We do work very closely with these partners. Where there are any gaps that are witnessed or observed on the part of the federal government, through the coordinating body and the relevant institution, does make that aware to these organizations and vice versa in a mutually reinforcing manner as well. So the other part of the allegations is not something that I am in a position to respond to. Thank you very much for today's briefing, and we'll see you at another time.